And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Get together, have a few laughs.
Welcome to Iowatalkguyspodcast. I'm your host, Teepee.
I'm the other host, Theo.
Out in our undisclosed location in our shack in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa.
Today we're going around the world a little bit.
Kind of
east, in an eastwardly direction.
Yeah, seeing what's going on over there. So, up here on the top of our list, we got the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division has been deployed to Europe for the first time in almost 80 years amid soaring tensions between Russia and the American-led NATO military alliance.
This is from the Eurasian Times, Sakshi Tiwari, October 23rd, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty stupid idea.
But we've been talking about this.
Yeah, that's what we should expect, right?
Yeah, really. These people are psychos. They're willing to risk nuclear war over what? A piece of land that the U.S. had no interest in whatsoever until now. Well, publicly, they had an interest in Ukraine for a while, but publicly, on the world's stage, they could care less about what happened in Ukraine for the most part.
No, absolutely not. They just want to use it as a proxy to weaken Russia, eventually change regimes there to pro-Western regime. And
they were honestly
the leaders in the West, particularly the powers in the United States and I would imagine London, want to dominate the world through financial means.
Yeah.
Through fiat currencies, through fractional reserve banking, through funding
IMF
everything
loans,
and having control of
banks.
the purse strings.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they were most likely, I'm sure there's a lot of people and governments, and this is just speculation on our part from just stuff that we've seen around the webs, the interwebs, but they were probably having some money laundering schemes going on over there.
In Ukraine?
In Ukraine, yeah.
Well, it's like a backwater where you do that, right?
Yeah, that's like the Silk Road.
Yeah.
And for years, and it's well known, that was the black market. You wanted Soviet-era weapons and stuff?
Go to Ukraine.
You go to Ukraine.
Ukraine.
You come to Ukraine, I sell you a tank, T-90.
Tank.
We have ammunition.
We have submarine in Odessa.
Yeah. all this stuff. No vodka.
No. But we get you a bowl of beet soup later, okay?
You like it. So
that's pretty scary, though.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and traditionally, just the 101st Airborne is a pretty attack-ish unit, right?
The Screaming Eagles,
right? They're there for a primary initial assault type situation.
Yeah, they're no slouches. They're very well trained, or at least used to be. I'm sure they still are. There's a lot of honor amongst the ranks there in that unit.
Sure. Band of Brothers was essentially the 101st Airborne, right?
Yeah. Yep. Sure was. But the training is described as happening just 3 miles away from Romania's border with Ukraine.
Yeah. That's concerning. Let's see on a map here exactly where Romania is in relation to Ukraine.
Yeah, well, Theo's looking that up. Here's a quote by Brigadier General John Lubis,
Yeah, I found this very interesting.
who told CBS News, "We are ready to defend every inch of NATO soil. We bring a unique capability from our air assault capability. We're a light infantry force, but again, we bring that mobility with us for our aircraft and air assault." Yeah, I mean, there's
He's ready
strike
to go.
teams. Yeah,
General's ready to go.
yeah, he's probably like Mad Dog Madison. Like to get into a fight. Good fight gets the blood going.
Use our weaponry.
Yeah, this general is probably a lieutenant or captain in Iraq, lobbing 203s at huts and stuff, not even knowing who was inside.
I'll let you speculate on that.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying, weird stuff happened.
So if you look at
Crimes were committed, I should say.
if you look at Romania on the map, what we're seeing is Romania on the west coast of the Black Sea. And it's interesting because it actually borders Ukraine in two different sections. The first and largest section is in the north of Romania, and then Moldova is where the border transitions to east and then heading southeast.
Okay.
But then after Moldova, which is landlocked, well, no, not really. Are a couple bays coming in, it looks like, from the Black Sea that it has access to. But there's a smaller border between Romania and Ukraine from Moldova to the Black Sea.
Okay.
So that is really interesting. I wonder exactly where they're at.
Where Moldova's at?
No, where the 101st is at.
Oh.
Which one of those borders?
Who knows?
But that's
And
just...
they could have just been saying that also to, we're here, but we're actually not there.
That's just...
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's just playing with fire, though, in my opinion.
Poking the bear.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes. The Russian bear.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to send that bear packing over them mountains. But no, they're not, because that's that bear's territory. Bears are usually pretty fierce when they come to defending their territory, aren't they?
I think so.
I believe so.
Particularly
well.
brown bears.
Yeah. So, that's starting to happen. It's always a bad sign. Yeah, this is Glenn Greenwald, a quote from him.
Oh, in this article?
In another article I found. This is, I'm looking at a Zero Hedge article. It's always a bad sign when the U.S. military starts embedding the largest media corporations to enable exciting war shots for the evening network news. Biden has done literally everything to make the U.S. a belligerent in the war in Ukraine, short of deploying full battalions there.
That is why Glenn Greenwald is one of this show's favorite.
Yeah.
Journalists.
I really like what he has to say about stuff. It's a dangerous game, and he's right. That is a bad sign. I mean, I remember the road to war.
These people love it
in Iraq. The leading, the media push, showing us all those images that the Pentagon or DoD supposedly was feeding them about mobile chemical weapon labs they had.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that this stuff never existed.
And we've talked about this too in prior recordings. Is the fact that it was big for the media too. They had a story. Finally.
They made a lot of money.
Yeah, they were being watched every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
by a lot of people.
They learned that from the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
when everybody could come home at 5 o'clock news
But where did it start? Like really, really start. CNN in the 24-hour news cycle, and then in '91 with Desert Storm,
in which we spoke about. When we talked about, I think that was the Death Throes of CNN show that we did.
Yeah, that was big.
Yeah,
and in 2003,
they were
it
embedded.
Makes so much more sense now, right? Looking back, of course, hindsight's 20/20, but I don't know. You can spot that BS a mile away now.
Well, for those of us that have been paying attention and watching, but other people are still like, I stand for Ukraine!
And they don't know a damn thing.
They don't know anything.
Place.
Like I said, if you stand for Ukraine, then please explain to me, some of the events that happened in 2014 in Ukraine.
Yeah. It was a pro-Russia regime. It's widely, what's the word I'm looking for, Teepee? It's widely sort of acknowledged around the world that the United States took them out. CIA, folks, We're gonna guess what? We got more examples for you later in other parts of the world as we move further east. Well, actually, not that much further east.
Yeah, really roughly
I think
around
it's
the whole
just
same, just further south, kind of.
southeast.
Yeah,
But yep. Guess what? This is where these jackals have played their games before.
Yep.
You know, taking governments out, putting governments in, and oh, by the way, the United States doesn't have a tendency to put nice guys into office.
They put people in that they can control,
are pretty violent and mean,
and that control the population,
suppress free speech, basic things like this.
Right. But yeah, anyway, so that happened, and then that split the country in two, causing a civil war. And I mean, then shortly after that, was it 2016? Was that when when Russia came in and annexed Crimea?
No, that was 2014.
Crimea. Oh, that was in 2014, right? Yes. Okay, so right after the Civil War.
I believe so, probably. Yeah. Which we've talked about this so many damn times before,
sorry.
But folks, it's relevant. I mean, if you're if you're one of our listeners, you're here for a reason. I mean, we keep coming back to the same things, but
yeah. But this all plays a role while this stuff was going on. The reason why all this stuff's what's the word I'm looking for? Coming ahead today, and coming into this choke point really is where we're coming to. This crossroads of
because of these seeds that were sown.
Yes, these seeds that were sown by the U.S. intelligence community,
and lies that are being told and perpetrated today, like somehow there was a war that started with Russia invading Ukraine. No. Russia was in a position prior to the February invasion of Ukraine where it was trying to tell Kiev to stop shelling their own citizens in the east. Hey, will you stop shelling your citizens over here?
They're getting really upset and asking us for help.
They're Russians too, and they, But
it really goes further back. It goes back to the fall of the Soviet Union, which we spoke about.
Of course, yeah.
And when NATO nations were created, the lines were drawn, okay? There was an agreement with Russia, with the existing powers in Russia that became the government.
There will not be nukes in Ukraine.
There will not be nukes in Ukraine. There will not be any more NATO nations past this line. And fast forward, who's violating that frickin' treaty that Russia never went, well, besides the Soviet Union, are going into... I'm sorry. After the Soviet Union fell.
Treaty?
Yeah.
The Lakota Sioux? The Cherokees?
No. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Other treaties that the federal government has followed and, honored its own word.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see where you're going there. All right. Sorry. Okay. So, there was an agreement. There was a treaty that there was going to be no more NATO nations over here.
Yes.
Past the Caucasus Mountains, east of the Caucasus Mountains, correct?
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. And Russia, since the fall of the Soviet Union, they honored that. They have not gone to do any other land grabs. They've stayed in their territory. So who is in violation of this agreement? It certainly wasn't Russia.
No, it's NATO.
Yeah, and the U.S.
Yes.
So
which is exactly what NATO is.
They're playing the same dog and pony show, and then they're telling the U.S. public the same horse crap. Oh, these terrorists just hate us for our freedoms.
Yeah, well, they know that there's a significant amount of the population that they can just get away with it.
Unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately. So
it's just worth noting before we move on here that we have a few other sources on that mention that there's some saber rattling going on here.
Yeah.
That on the part of the United States, and and the message is being sent that the 101st is fully ready to go in.
Absolutely, yeah. And they are also, according to Colonel Edwin Matidis here, however you pronounce his last name, said his forces have been closely watching the Russian soldiers, building objectives to practice against and conducting war games that replicate exactly what's going on in Ukraine. That's neat. I would imagine if they are doing that, which most likely they are, there's probably so they have these neat towns on military bases. They're like shipping containers, and they can swap out, just move them around, do whatever they want with them to replicate any type of urban environment they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can literally get satellite images and practice on what these streets will be formed like and whatnot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
smart. Yeah, it is smart. It's pretty intelligent, so they can, in a moment's notice, give them a couple days or whatever, a week, and bam, you got yourself downtown Kiev or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
A few city blocks.
Mm-hmm. So, it's
frightening. We should have made this the scary episode. This is pretty scary.
This should have been the Halloween one. Yeah, the All Hallow Eve special. So now, like I said, if that's not provoking, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Saber rattling. It's provocative.
Yeah.
It's not smart.
Yeah,
it's not smart at all.
And just to finish up here, there's a Romanian Major General, Iulian Berdila, told CBS News that the presence of American troops was reminiscent of World War II. The real meaning for me to have the American troops here is like you were to have allies in Normandy before an enemy was there. The 101st has not deployed to Europe since the last World War.
I am so sick and tired of the World War II references that have absolutely no resemblance to what is going on today.
They do to an extent. That I think that another world war is about to break out.
Yeah.
That's about the only extent of comparison.
But it's not like the 101st is dropping into France to liberate Nazi-occupied, France.
Absolutely.
Belgium.
Right.
Holland.
No. In this case, it looks like they're going to be the provocateurs.
Oh, the ones that are invading to the east this time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. How'd that happen? How'd that go?
And
last time? How did moving east work out for Napoleon?
Very well.
How did moving east work for
Alexander
Hitler?
the Great?
Yeah, I mean Alexander the Great probably made it further than anybody, right? But
yeah.
But how did it work for the Third Reich?
Not very good.
Not very good. It's kind of the beginning of the end type of situation. Same thing for Napoleon.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really, their downfall.
We're talking about the same part.
Yeah.
The Princess Bride. Right. Never invade Russia. What did he say? Something like that.
Indespicable. Or no, inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Yeah.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable. Inconceivable. You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
What is it? It's like, never invade Russia in the winter and never barter with a Sicilian.
Yeah. Yes.
Something like that.
All right, I'm going to play the clip if that one's wrong.
Ah, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this: never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
That's good.
Oh, it's wrong.
No, well, we'll get the right one. It's all right. I totally screwed up Bill Clinton's I did not inhale. It was, I smoked marijuana. I didn't like it. I never inhaled it.
All right, Bill.
Never did it again.
You also smoked a wood effigy of an owl at Bohemian Grove.
No, the effigy was of a child on the... At
cremation of care?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was at the effigy was of a child at the foot of a stone owl, Moloch. So,
but seriously, go research that for yourself, because these people that run the world and start these wars all over the place for whatever reason are into all sorts of occult practices.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. So moving on here, we have an article from Sky News. This one was brought by Teepee. And the headline reads, History Made in China as Xi Jinping to serve third term, breaking decades-long precedent. The precedent apparently being term limits or something of the sort.
Right.
This is Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. Helen Ann Smith, the Asian correspondent at Sky News. So he's ruled for 10 years already. And he will stay for at least 5 more years because, every 5 years they have the meeting of the party, the
the
Communist Party or something like that.
Party Congress,
Sure.
Communist Party of China meets. Every 5 years this event happens and has the central purpose of selecting the people who will sit at the top leadership roles for the next 5 years. So it picks out 2 groups as seen as the apex of political power in China.
Power.
Yeah. The 25-strong Politburo and the Polit Standing Committee that is made up of 7 people, including the president, are selected, chosen. And, it says further on in this article that Z basically set up...
Xi.
Xi. Oh,
Xi
yeah.
Jinping.
Xi. He set it up. He basically padded those parties, those members and those groups to continue to elect him to be the strong leader of the group, Communist Party of China. And it said the 2-term limit on Chinese president was introduced in the early 1980s after Chairman Mao's death. I like how they use Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao. They don't call him the dictator. They call him Chairman Mao.
Yeah, and in case you don't know who Chairman Mao is, folks,
Mao Zedong.
It's a mystery to me why, of course, Adolf Hitler being one of the most abhorrent, disgusting people in all of human history.
Yep.
I don't know why he gets so much credit, because Mao individually and Stalin individually, from a pure body count perspective, made Hitler look like
clown shoes,
kindergarten teacher.
Yeah,
kindergarten.
Yeah. They've murdered and slaughtered and massacred so many of their own people.
Yeah, it was rumored that Jews in the East were somewhat excited to see the Germans come because they thought that they had a chance of being treated better.
Yeah, until they didn't.
But everybody hated them. But go ahead. Sorry.
It says here this break with tradition makes him the most powerful leader in China since Chairman Mao. And his vision has become increasingly unchallengeable. Yeah, the new standing committee was revealed as President Xi led them on stage in rank and order. So they had this big show, have all this crap set up. And, Mao ruled for nearly 30 years. And it even says here, he brought great chaos, violence, and instability to China. And the idea was to move to a more collective leadership model to ensure power could never again be so centralized in the hands of one person.
Okay.
But they're communists.
Yeah, so. Right. That's what Mao, that's exactly what Mao was doing.
Whatever. You guys don't make any sense.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what?
It's interesting, not to change the subject, but they always talk about, communists trying to, not centralize power. And then they all end up just incredibly centralized.
Yeah.
And, I believe Jordan Peterson has mentioned before that the reason that communist regimes in particular become centralized is because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you have to grab all the power you can and force people to do what you want because they're not going to do it voluntarily.
Weird that
give
people
up all
don't want to be oppressed.
Yeah, give up all their stuff and savers that save more, having to share and yada, yada, yada.
No.
It doesn't work. And people tend to say that capitalism, so many resources go from the bottom to the top, man. Capitalism got to come down. Well, again, Jordan Peterson informed us that's every single hierarchy ever in the history of mankind.
Right.
Power, money, everything aggregating to the top. To fewer and fewer hands.
And that goes back to centuries old. I mean...
Well, capitalism is the one where the fewest or the least amount of power
has been
went to the top.
Up, right.
Yeah.
Right. I would
That's why
agree
we
with
have
that.
a middle class. And they didn't have a middle class in communist regimes.
Never, and really... the history has there been a middle class.
You were either impoverished or
you were
living the high life.
Yeah. There was no in between, and you could never marry up, only down.
Sure.
So people didn't want to do that. That's where the inbreeding and all that other craziness started coming through with the royal families and all that nonsense.
Habsburgs.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty bizarre that people would blame. I've heard people blame capitalism before for all the acts of basically terrorism that the United States government has conducted throughout the whole world.
Yeah.
And then they want to say, oh, well, this is capitalism's fault. I'm like, no, dude, you clearly don't understand the difference.
Yeah, you just know how to whine. That's essentially it, and have your hand out.
And apparently, from what I was told, a lot of these people are being taught this in the universities by their professors.
Well, yeah, and it's also interesting that I think Marx. I could be wrong on this. Please correct me. I will happily admit if I'm wrong. But
which we have.
I think that Marx coined the term capitalism.
I'm not sure,
but really, I like the term free markets. You know, hey, like voluntary contracts and associations between two people.
Yes.
Handshake, whatever. Government doesn't have to be in the middle of all of it.
Yes, I agree with that too. I'm all behind free market, dude. That's how it should be. The government shouldn't have to get involved. And I would like to see,
we're not so different from their system over there, are we? Not as different as we'd like to think.
No.
I mean, we've got two parties that are in charge and a perpetual state here that doesn't go anywhere.
Well, their structure set up quite differently than ours, but
yeah, aren't they all?
Hey, you know what? At the end of the day, they're friends with our government, with our politicians. How do you think we got all these cheap Chinese goods pushed into the United States all the time?
All of these leaders of the world, Xi Jinping and Hillary Clinton have far more in common with each other than either of those two people do with you or I.
Yeah.
Period.
Remember that time she was sending me emails?
There's been a lot of Hillary email news.
A lot of that's been coming out that we haven't even touched on that. I mean, my personal opinion, once again, we spoke about it on, I think that Hunter Makes a Deal show episode was, if we would have done that, if I had sent on classified documents on an unsecured private email server network.
Or Trump did?
No, you or I.
Yeah.
Like, even when I was active duty in the Marine Corps, when Hillary was doing this stuff, I was active duty Marine Corps. If I had done that, I would have gone to the brig. I would have gotten charged with treason. I would have.
Look at the former Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning.
Yeah.
Look,
and that was during the Obama administration.
Yeah, the most transparent administration in U.S. history.
We played that clip, and then he ended up being the harshest on whistleblowers ever in any presidential administration. Weird.
Curious.
So what else do you lie about? We know some stuff. So,
what?
Oh, piggybacking
off of talking about China a little bit there.
Yeah.
One Navy official, this is according to antiwar.com. I like antiwar.com not because they claim to be unbiased, but because their bias is right there in their URL. Yeah. Antiwar.com. We are biased as hell.
Yeah, we are against war.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it.
Well, that's a good bias to have, and it's good that we can recognize our own biases.
Yeah, I'm totally on board.
So this is antiwar.com, October 20th, 2022. A high-level Navy official said Wednesday that the U.S. should prepare for the possibility of China invading Taiwan as soon as this year. Quote, so when we talk about the 2027 window, which is apparently a claim from retired Admiral Phil Davidson. He was in charge of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, and he said that within 6 years he believed that China would invade Taiwan. But this quote is, so when we talk about the 2027 window, in my mind, that has to be a 2022 window or potentially a 2023 window. I can't rule it out, end quote, said Admiral Michael Gilday, the chief of naval operations. So what he's saying is that it's not a 6-year plan anymore. They think it's going to happen.
Well,
sooner rather than later.
Right after, going back to my active duty in the Marine Corps, right after I got out, 2013, 2014, that's when they started changing operations up, and they slowly, I think it was 2016 or 17, they got rid of the tanks and stuff.
Yes.
They started focusing on an island hopping campaign.
A couple years ago, I texted with a guy I know that was in the Marine Corps as well, and he said that, the Marine Corps doesn't have tanks anymore.
Right. We got rid of them.
They got rid of it, and they're focusing on just amphibious operations.
Small teams.
Got rid of military police.
Yep.
So
yeah, they got rid of their MP.
So they're really just focusing on, and there were a lot of deployments in the Indo-Pacific, right?
Well, yeah, and also
practicing island hopping.
before I got out, too, they started changing up some of their Marine Expeditionary Unit routes to, they start hitting up Australia again and having longer...
Australia.
Having longer training sessions in Australia. And I believe was the beginning they started... Because remember in World War II, we used Australia as a kind of forwarding base. We also had guys coming back doing R&R and stuff there. So...
Hopefully they didn't get stung by any jellyfish or...
Well, yeah, Australia's got like the most deadliest
eaten by any
creatures in the
crocodiles
world.
or anything like that.
Well, I guess it would have been better than being tortured to death by a Japanese.
In the Philippines?
Yeah. Having your junk cut off and stuffed in your mouth and whatever. You know?
That's intense.
Yeah, it was brutal, dude. Anyways, we can go on about that in another episode. But yeah, I definitely see... I've been reading Marine Corps Times articles and keeping up with what's been happening for the most part. I still got guys in talking to them about some stuff, and they switched to smaller units. They're not focusing on massive battalion movements and stuff. So basically, Marine Corps, what it sounds like to me, are going to be accumulation of small strike teams, hit and runs, or...
So we've talked about this organization as well in earlier episodes. We talked about how like the U.S. Army is structured into a brigade combat team. Does that sound right?
Like,
so it's large amounts of troops and units, and that's where the arms are combined, like artillery and infantry.
Yeah, to move in large scales like that.
And the Marine Corps was at a more of a battalion level, which was a smaller unit from a brigade, much smaller.
Right. I think we looked up at the numbers on that show.
Well, we were also mentioning that this is the way that Russia's military is organized as well. At this battalion tactical group,
right,
I believe is what it's called. So you're saying that the Marine Corps has taken it down another notch. They're forming at an even smaller unit level.
So the battalions will operate. They'll split their companies up. The companies will operate. They'll still. I guarantee they're still going to do training movements where there'll be a whole entire battalion movement. Each company, each platoon doing their own thing, moving to complete the mission objective. As long as everybody does their part for the mission, I mean, it'd be pretty cool training. I've done some like battalion movements, training movements and stuff. Obviously, nothing, some major battalion movement in Afghanistan or anything like that. But it was some really cool training just to watch, and observe how everything worked together. Everybody's doing their part. Kind of scary to think about if that were ascending on your area.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think about what would the defense look like as well.
Yeah.
Well, because I think it would be foolish to not understand that China has been preparing for this for a long time, I'm sure. Since World War II.
Well, yeah, I mean,
probably.
They've also been making trillions of dollars off of selling cheap goods to the U.S. So just like Russia has been making trillions of dollars off of selling cheap freaking natural gas to Europe. And once again, do you really think these countries were just not investing in their military, not watching what was going on in the Middle East with the U.S. and all these other countries?
Yeah.
Observing tactics?
Since the 90s, China's been trying to come into the first world, and I'm sure that they have had their eyes set on figuring out a way to project influence in that part of the world. Particularly, well, more than that.
And China's also been buying up gold and silver and all this stuff too and everything.
Yeah, they're moving to hard asset-based currencies.
I would see them doing that as well, yeah. And possibly pegging their currency to a precious metal as well. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
They're doing it with the Russians as we speak.
You know what? We brought that up on our show before, yeah. The Russians and the Chinese and really all the BRICS plus countries are going to be most likely working together to form a whole new currency.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could see that happening.
Based on hard assets. They are doing it as we speak.
And a lot of people think that their move is going to be to cryptocurrency to try to fight the fiat currency. I don't think so. I think it's going to go back to, like you just said, assets, actual, tangible, physical assets.
Yeah, well, the biggest obstruction to that is Washington, D.C.
Yeah, the U.S. dollar.
So we're the Iowa talk guys, and if we were to look at the map between us and the BRICS countries, it is Washington, D.C.
Yep. So that's who knows what's going to happen. And if they do invade Taiwan, we've already spoke about on previous shows, played clips of what former Vice President Biden said he's going to do, which was kind of confusing, but he said, we totally recognize the One China initiative. What happens if they invade Taiwan? We will fully prepared to help out Taiwan.
Well, the Sky News article goes on to mention that we are sending large amounts of weapons to Taiwan. Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
I have seen that on the blotter as well.
You know.
Right.
You know.
So we're sending weapons to Ukraine, sending weapons to Taiwan.
But that's one of the American government's, favorite pastimes.
As arming other countries?
Or just sending weapons.
Yeah. Just like in Afghanistan.
Lord of War.
And they left all those weapons for the Taliban.
Yeah.
Which I did play, we talked about, I talked about the schools. There's not many schools being built, but I did find out they're not allowing female teenage girls back in school.
Oh, no more literacy for females?
They were going to, and the girls showed up, and then everybody got a message, and they're like, oh, we changed our mind.
Yeah, well,
this
we made the headline.
This is stupid. Yeah. So.
Dang it, we didn't Americanize them after 20 years.
Yeah. How did this not happen?
Man, I don't know.
So weird. So strange.
Are there other examples of the United States coming
Tell you what
and
did
creating
happen.
Power vacuums? And
Tell you what did happen in those 20 years.
What?
That opiate epidemic hit in the United States.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how a uniformed Marine, I believe Lieutenant Colonel, was caught with a plane full of heroin in the 80s.
Yeah.
Down in Costa Rica or Nicaragua. Interesting.
Yeah. What?
It's almost like government's in the drug business somehow.
Iran-Contra? Anyone?
Right.
Anyways. Moving on to...
Speaking of Iran.
Yeah. Speaking of Iran and Iran-Contra, so if you guys have been paying attention to the news, there has been protests in Iran lately, and people... there's footage of universities protesting.
After nearly 2 months of taking to the streets and protesting their country's leadership, Iranians say security forces are now using tear gas indiscriminately in crowds and even people's homes, and opening fire with live rounds. It started in September when Iran's morality police arrested a 22-year-old woman, Mahsa Amini, for what they described as immodest attire. 3 days later, Amini died in a hospital while in police custody. Iran officially blamed Amini's death on a heart attack triggered by a fall, but her father, Amjad Amini, told VOA that was a lie. He says she had no pre-existing health problems before her arrest. Her death put a face on a global movement for human rights.
All this craziness. There's, we want to get to this because there's some other stuff about what Iran's been talking about.
I'm going to say one of the craziest things while you're looking that up. I have watched videos of Iran.
Yeah.
And travel and food and culture and, not a big fan of their government, or really most governments for that matter, any government. But it actually seems like a really freaking cool place.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have such a repressive government, but I've seen you can ski in Iran.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's some stuff.
People are just really nice and warm and welcoming. There's just the problem that sometimes they disappear.
Yeah, like that one Olympian a few years ago. Outspoken against
that wrestler.
Yeah.
That literally Dana White of the UFC tried getting here, I believe.
Yeah, and they death. All because he was outspoken against he said it wasn't even outspoken. He said one thing that the government didn't agree with.
Yeah.
Iran executed a popular wrestling star despite an international campaign to save him. That included a plea from President Trump. 27-year-old Naveed Afkari was convicted of murder and the stabbing death of a government worker during a protest in 2018. Iran released a video of his confession, said to be given under torture. Recently, President Trump tweeted Afkari's only crime was, quote, protesting the country's worsening economic situation, adding, I would greatly appreciate if you would spare this young man's life.
But that didn't create these protests, these anti-government protests that were happening. So
this was a 22-year-old student that died in police custody, according to U.S. News and World Report.
Well, he was taken by police. September 16th, he died. He was taken to a re-education center for lessons in modesty. And he woke up dead.
He woke up dead?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know.
What?
Yeah, that happens sometimes in Iran. Just go to sleep and wake up dead. So so there was protests all over. University students were protesting. Strikes and protests have become a common sight in cities and towns across the country, and in the capital, chants of death to the dictator and reference to supreme leader
Ayatollah Khomeini.
Yes, often ring out at night from the rooftops.
And that's when Iranians took to the streets chanting a popular refrain, "Death to Khomeini," a reference to the country's supreme leader. Worldwide demonstrations followed, demanding human rights and calling for an end to Iran's theocratic government.
Former Vice President Joe Biden has thrown his support behind the demonstrators, promising costs on perpetrators of violence against peaceful protests.
Well, if there's one thing we know about old Scranton Joe, it's that he really, really identifies with the people.
Yeah.
And particularly the people of Iran.
Yep. Saying that the U.S. stands with the brave women of Iran who right now are demonstrating to secure their basic rights. You want to know how they're demonstrating to secure their basic rights?
Throwing bricks through windows and shit?
No, the males are doing that. Oh, there might be some females out there doing that, but they're showing their tatas apparently.
Woo.
Just dropping them out. And you know what? In a Muslim world, that is super risky. Like, that is... Here in America...
Like, you might get your ass stoned to death in the streets?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, that is... That's a big no-no. And it's interesting, though, because Iran said Saturday... Well, this article's from the 23rd. So...
Erie News now reporting via CNN.
Yes. So they said on the 22nd, Iran said it would take legal action against the United States, accusing it of, quote, direct involvement, unquote, in the protests sweeping the country.
So we were talking earlier about how in 2014 it was possible that the CIA, and actually it's kind of widely accepted that the CIA overthrew a pro-Russian government in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have mentioned on this short show before that in 1953 the CIA did play the most active role in overthrowing the Iranian government, a democratically elected government.
Correct.
So... Iran doesn't have some sort of baseless claim here, as evil as these people may be.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost like they've seen this before. Tehran also warned the United Kingdom and Saudi Arabia would not be ignored by the Islamic Republic's judiciary system for the role in hosting and supporting TV networks such as BBC Persian and Iran International, which the Iranian government claimed had urged protesters to, quote, destroy public and private properties. So, the United States government announced sanctions on Iran's morality police for abuse and violence against Iranian women and the violation of the rights of peaceful Iranian protesters, and is working to make it easier for Iranians to access the internet.
And, of course, going on with our theme of this show of pointing out the obvious, those in Washington, D.C. have exclusive privileges of defining what is moral and what is not moral.
Right.
Not the morality police in Iran.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clear that up.
Yes, they are the moral compass that
absolutely.
we should follow.
Yes.
Yeah. Clearly, history has proven. So, yeah, they have no room to talk about morality or ethics at all. Period.
Right.
Period. So... it's just the violence against Iranian women. What about the violence against Saudi Arabian women?
Yeah. I mean, and homosexuals in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Things like this.
Why aren't the U.S. standing up for their rights?
Well, I think that they have more of a business relationship with Saudis as opposed to Iran. I think that...
Oh, that's weird.
The Saudis are the good, what do we want to call them? The good... theological regime in that neck of the woods.
They're the good morality, Islamic morality police.
Yes. They don't mess around. They throw them homosexuals straight off that roof.
Right.
That's what they do in Saudi Arabia.
Because it's God's will.
Yeah.
According to them. But whatever, man.
Also the Saudi Arabia that helped plan and fund the 9/11 attacks on the United States of America.
No. That never happened.
That kingdom of Saud.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ones that were helping them dudes take flight lessons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Weird.
Crazy.
But they had nothing to do with it. just read the official 9/11 Commission report. You'll know exactly what happened.
Right.
The experts told us so.
The Saudis obviously make incredibly strong passports as well, because one of them survived a 747 explosion from an impact into a skyscraper and then just fell down to the ground.
Landed at the foot of an FBI agent's feet.
Yeah. And they identified one of the hijackers from the plane on that.
Yep. They were able to unravel the entire mystery from that one passport for the most part.
Yep.
Good police work right there.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Glad they're on our side. But continuing with this article, it says this is not the first time.
Iran, right.
Yeah, this is not the first time that Iran has accused the U.S. of meddling in anti-government protests.
Mm-hmm.
And made similar claims in 2018. Well, what happened in there?
I don't think that Iran has played ball. What did I say earlier? That they want the West, the leaders of the West, the banking powers of the West, they want to dominate the world financially, and Iran is one of the countries that hasn't played ball.
So, now this is 2018. This is Trump's administration, right? This article right here by CNN, by Angela Duane, of January 5th, 2018, straight up just says it right here in the very first opening paragraph. The United States is tapping social media to incite protests, quote, to change their government, unquote, thus tampering in Iranian affairs, the Islamic Republic alleged in Thursday's letter to the United Nations.
Okay. So they admitted it.
It says, Tehran accused U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence of inciting Iranians to protest against the government through a series of tweets and described U.S. interference in Iranian issues as grotesque. So once again, they might have some experience with seeing the United States government interfering with their country. I'm sure they keep a good eye out on it, right?
I would imagine that they... a lot of power and going after your own people like that, it just comes with the paranoia of, having to be on your toes. These regimes that crack down are looking for people that are threatening their power at every turn, right?
Yeah.
So
they always have to have their guard up.
So the U.S. could be one of the main parties responsible for the reason that the regime in Tehran is just so damned mean.
And so paranoid?
Yeah.
I can. We gave him PTSD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that one guy next door named Saddam Hussein that the United States, prior to going to war with twice, armed, funded,
and directed to attack
Iran in like a 10-year war that they had throughout the 80s.
Mm-hmm. And then we turned around and took them out.
Yeah. So we helped the Iranians
That's
there,
some
I guess.
Straight up mafia stuff, dude. If you think about it when you break it down like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It boils down to...
You failed your mission.
Yeah, the best thing I could say is just kind of read some of the words of the founders of the United States,
Yeah.
Don't put them on a pedestal. Don't worship them. They were men, and when they got power, what did they do? They overreached. Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
Yeah, but, I think it was John Adams said the United States goes not out in search of monsters to destroy. Keep your military here. Keep your military at home.
I agree. That's what we definitely should do.
Thomas Jefferson, I believe it was his 1801 inaugural address. Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none should be our motto.
Tom Jefferson said that.
Yeah.
I could get on board with that.
Absolutely. I think that it would benefit everybody a lot more if the United States did business with these nasty regimes as opposed to tried to hurt them as much as they can, because it doesn't hurt the people that are making the bad decisions. It hurts the people at the ground level.
Right. And when you think about it, we are making business deals with nasty regimes already, like we discussed, Saudi Arabia. What do they get a free pass for? Because we're business partners. We have the petrodollar deal with them. But that could be going away here. That could easily be going away soon.
How many assholes in Africa that have taken a bite out of a human heart have been given crates of weapons by the United States?
Oh,
in one way, shape, or form.
Oh, dude,
it's happened.
We could get into that too. I mean, we're still right now. U.S. troops are actively operating in parts of Africa. Why?
Frequently.
Why?
There's a lot of resources in Africa, man. That place is probably
a gold mine.
That place is probably the most wealthy continent on Earth.
Literally.
It's just so underdeveloped.
And always warring. And
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on there, but yeah, so I guess kind of just to bring this to an end, to wrap it up, don't trust your government.
They're lying now more than ever.
Yeah. And
it's the only game they know how to play. And the thing is that there are people out there they know they can hook every time.
Right. And we already discussed on our shows before and showed you guys and told you about it, that National Defense Authorization Act.
Propaganda is legal.
Legally being used against us. So that's why when we look up some of the stuff, trying to bring you guys some of this information is hard. And we're fortunate enough that we have certain resources that those guys do a lot better job than us of finding good info that they can share with us.
Of course.
But, I mean, if you go on, I don't use Google. If you go on Google or go even DuckDuckGo, when you search stuff, I mean, there's a ton of propaganda you have to sift through. And when, we proved it on one of our shows where we were reading every other freaking headline, and one was like, oh, Russia's running out of ammo. Oh, the next one was, oh, Ukraine's running out of ammo. Oh,
we talked that one time about how now Google has partnered with the UN.
Mm-hmm.
The UN owns the science, so all of the top hits on a Google search regarding climate change are going to bring up UN sources.
Or not just climate change, anything.
Yeah.
Vaccinations, any type of vaccination you want to learn about.
Yeah, this is like a time of universal deceit.
And there's a YouTuber. So this YouTuber's name is Bright Insight, is his YouTube channel. And he did this fantastic video a couple months ago titled Disturbing Proof They Are Quietly Deleting the Internet. And he goes through and shows you video proof. He goes to these search engines and shows you the stuff. Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing or whatever. Ask Jeeves, if he's even around anymore. They'll bring up, hey, there's 1,237,000 hits on this topic. So then, all right, let me go page 10. Hit back. You try to go all the way back. It'll only bring you up maybe 300, 400 search results before it just tells you, oh, there's no more information on this. Check the video out.
Scary.
Yeah.
Didn't Orwell refer to it as like the memory hole in 1984?
Yes. Oh, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's awesome. Yeah. And now we have this thing on the internet called the Wayback Machine, right? Even that's getting scrubbed. So that archived tons and tons of articles, websites, and stuff that are offline now. Nobody's monitoring them, but it can bring up, so you can look up articles, supposed to be able to look up articles from back in
1999.
Yeah, when the internet first came out.
That you looked up on
everything.
AOL.
Yeah, stuff like that, dude. So it's the internet's being scrubbed for sure. Information, like I said, I've tried finding YouTube videos for bringing up stuff for the show where I've had to, waste tons of time searching for this, where it should have just been a simple, I even typed in the title. And I couldn't find the video until I did some really deep dives and searching around, finding some other stuff. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it also, lends to the importance of reading and honing in on that skill and practicing reading and practicing writing and practicing speaking and stuff like that. But I mentioned books and reading primarily because they can't scrub it, really. The books exist. They're printed. And I will admit, if I buy the hard copy, I buy the audiobook a lot of the time because it's just so much more convenient, at work or whatever, listen to an audiobook. But I need to practice my reading more. That's for sure. Don't we all? But let's wrap this up. Another show. Thanks for listening, guys.
Around the world, we appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Yeah, share, really, like we've said before. We don't mean to be broken records, but that helps us a lot. That's still word of mouth is the best way.
will be our. We're not too tech savvy. Word of mouth is really what we'd like to go for. Light a brush fire for us, guys.
Erock's the tech savvy guy, but he's memeing. So, also, like I said, website's coming. You can go to Iowatalkguys.com right now. It's just going to redirect you to our Podbean.
Iowatalkguys.locals.com, at Iowatalkguys on Twitter.
Yes. And our emails, if you want to email us, they're in the description right now. Email me for the most part, Teepee at Iowatalkguys. I'm monitoring the email more often than these guys are just because technology, right? So,
also compatibility issues.
Yeah, we're working on some stuff. So, yeah, I think that's it. So, we really appreciate you guys listening. We love you, for sure. We're going to continue doing this as long as we continue having you guys wanting us to run our mouths. So, we appreciate it.
Iowa Talk Guys out.
Out.